There are Australian towns with no council, no rates, and houses from $150 a year. One will hand you $20,000 just to build and move in. The government knows about them. It does not exactly advertise them. Let's start. Number 5. Coober Pedy, South Australia. Register a $150 claim. Dig a home. Live underground in a city that produces 70% of the world's opal, where the government's own classification makes the cost of housing almost disappear. Coober Pedy sits 850 kilometers north of Adelaide on the Stuart Highway, in a landscape that looks like a film set for the end of the world, and has occasionally served as one. The population is approximately 1,700 people, though that number is genuinely difficult to verify because a significant portion lives in unregistered dwellings on mining claims in the surrounding desert, at addresses that do not formally exist. The name comes from the Pitjant Jat Jara words Kupa Piti, meaning boy's waterhole. The town produces approximately 70% of the world's gem-quality opal. It also contains a legal mechanism for housing that exists nowhere else in Australia that the South Australian government does not spend much time discussing, and that reduces the annual cost of living to a number that takes a moment to accept as real. For $150 per year, you register a mining claim. Each claim is typically 50 by 50 meters. Once registered, you have the legal right to mine that claim and to reside on it while actively mining. The classification matters because dugout homes on mining claims fall under mining regulations rather than standard building codes. Excavating a dugout does not require a conventional building permit. You register the claim, you dig, and you live in it. In the first year, the total housing cost is your excavation labor and $150. In the second year, it is $150. Every year after that, it is $150. The council has guidelines. Enforcement in a vast desert where the government has long since made its peace with the practical limits of oversight is minimal by any honest assessment. Now add the thermal physics, because they are extraordinary. Summer temperatures in Coober Pedy exceed 45 degrees and have reached over 50 degrees. Winter nights drop below freezing. Inside a dugout carved into the sandstone, the temperature holds between 22 and 24 degrees every single day of the year, without exception, without equipment, without a bill. No energy is consumed on heating, no energy on cooling. The earth is doing the work for free, and it has been doing it since before the first person thought to dig here in 1915. These are not primitive shelters. The underground homes of Coober Pedy have electricity, plumbing, and internet. Some dugouts are single rooms. Others are elaborate, multi-room residences with carved archways, fully equipped kitchens, and a quality of interior space that no above-ground structure at this price point comes close to matching. Several churches are carved directly into the hillsides. There is an underground hotel, an underground art gallery, and a Serbian Orthodox church that has been inside a hill in the South Australian desert since the 1970s. The sandstone does not care about building codes. Coober Pedy Hospital provides emergency care. There are schools, supermarkets, pubs, and restaurants. Over 40 nationalities are represented, the legacy of post-war immigration that drew people from across Europe to dig for stones in the desert and stay because they found something they could not name and did not want to leave. The community life here has the particular texture of a place where everyone arrived from somewhere else and nobody quite left. Meals that combine 3 different culinary traditions, conversations that move between 4 languages, and a shared understanding that the opal field outside town is the great equalizer because it does not care where you came from, only whether you are willing to dig. Hundreds of people live right now in this town on mining claims with no formal address, no rates, no connection to town utilities, and an annual housing cost of $150. They generate power with solar panels. They pump water from artesian bores. They mine opal for income. The council does not have the resources to pursue people living in unregistered dugouts across the desert. There is some evidence it has stopped intending to. Coober Pedy charges $150 a year to live in the ground. The next town charges nothing at all. It does not have a council to do the charging. Number 4. Kambalda, Western Australia. Australia's first nickel town, 60 kilometers from Kalgoorlie. where the mining company built everything and the population has been leaving ever since, taking the property prices with it. Kambalda sits 60 kilometers south of Kalgoorlie in the Western Australian goldfields, built on the eastern shore of Lake Lefroy. It is a vast salt lake, so flat and white it looks like the earth ran out of ideas and decided to stop. The population is approximately 2,500 people across two settlements, Kambalda East and Kambalda West, built 4 kilometers apart because the nickel ore kept appearing between them. The town did not grow organically. It was constructed entirely by Western Mining Corporation after the discovery of high-grade nickel in January 1966. The company built the houses, the roads, the shops, and the school. It built the whole town from nothing in the middle of the goldfields because it needed somewhere to put its workers, and there was nowhere. That history matters for a specific financial reason. Company towns built around a single mine are extraordinarily exposed when that mine changes its operating model. Kambalda's population peaked at over 4,000 during the nickel boom. The 2021 census recorded 2,468. The ANZ Bank branch closed in 2018. The airport was mothballed in 2015. Fly-in operations have progressively replaced residential workforces, and the people who used to live here have quietly left, taking the demand for housing with them. The result is a property market that reflects the departure rather than the arrival. Houses in Kambalda West are available for around $150,000 to $200,000, a fraction of what equivalent properties cost in Perth. In a town with a functioning supermarket, 2 schools, a hotel, a recreation center, and the St. Ives gold mine nearby still providing employment. The Western Australian government offers a $10,000 regional relocation grant for skilled workers moving to areas like this. Combined with property prices that are already a fraction of the Perth median, the effective entry cost is lower than almost anywhere in the state with this level of infrastructure. The lake offers land yacht racing across its flat surface when dry. The red earth landscape is dramatic in the way that only the Western Australian goldfields manage, ancient, vast, and entirely indifferent to the opinions of people who have not spent time there. The town has everything a community needs. It simply has fewer people than it was built for, and the gap between what it offers and what it costs is where the opportunity lives. The next town is further from everything. Further from Kalgoorlie, further from Perth, and operating under a governance arrangement that makes Kambalda's Shire Council look like a bureaucratic heavyweight. Number 3. Laverton, Western Australia. The gateway to the Outback Way, 960 kilometers from Perth, where the Shire covers 183,000 square kilometers and the government is funding the road to Uluru 1 sealed kilometer at a time. Laverton sits in the northern goldfields of Western Australia, approximately 960 kilometers northeast of Perth and 360 kilometers north of Kalgoorlie, at the point where the sealed road ends and the Great Central Road begins, the famous unsealed Outback route that runs all the way to Uluru and Alice Springs. The population is approximately 900 people. The Shire of Laverton covers 183,198 square kilometers of arid desert, spinifex plains, mulga woodlands, and granite outcrops. That is larger than the entire state of Victoria. It is governed by a council with a budget and staffing level that reflects what 900 people can sustain. Laverton was established in 1896 after gold was discovered by 3 prospectors who presumably celebrated briefly before realizing how far from anything they were. The Wallaby Mine and Sunrise Dam Mine nearby are among Western Australia's significant gold producers, drawing a FIFO workforce that outnumbers the town's permanent residents several times over. The infrastructure that exists here, including the hospital, the school from kindergarten to year 12, and the supermarket, was built partly to support that workforce. The permanent residents get the benefit of facilities a town of 900 could not normally sustain. The government subsidizes the gap, quietly, without advertising it. Property here is among the most affordable in Western Australia. The ongoing sealing of the Great Central Road, progressing with federal and state funding through 2025 and into 2026, is expected to transform the town's economic position by improving access and opening the region to adventure tourism. Laverton is where the road to Uluru starts. That is not a metaphor. It is about to become considerably more significant than it has been. The landscape at this end of Western Australia is Spinifex Plain and Granite Outcrop, the edge of the Gibson Desert, an environment that operates on geological time and has no particular interest in human convenience or the opinions of anyone who flew here from Sydney. It is one of the last genuinely frontier landscapes in Australia. The government is paving the entrance. The question is whether you get there before everyone else notices. If Laverton's opportunity is about what the government is building, the next town's opportunity is about what the government forgot to build, including specifically a council. Number 2. Andamuka, South Australia, a self-governed opal town. No council, no police, no scheduled rubbish collection, and a median property price of $73,000 in a town that has been governing itself through a miners' association since 1960. Andamuka sits approximately 600 kilometers north of Adelaide on the traditional lands of the Kokatha people, 35 kilometers east of Roxby Downs, in a landscape that looks like it was specifically designed to discourage anyone who was not serious. The population is approximately 260 people, fluctuating with the mining cycles that have governed this place since 1930, when boundary riders on Andamuka Station found opal and the rush began. There is no local council. Andamuka is administered by the South Australian Outback Communities Authority, a state body managing remote unincorporated areas covering 65% of the state, in partnership with the Andamuka Progress and Opal Miners Association, known as APOMA, incorporated in 1960 and functioning as the de facto local government ever since. APOMA is elected by residents. It convenes monthly. It decides what happens. There is no police station, no scheduled rubbish collection. The town operates on a handshake between its residents and a state bureaucracy that is, by the geometry of what it is managing, physically incapable of close attention. The median property price in Andamuka is $73,000. That is not a typo. It is not a listing price for land on the outskirts. It is the median, the middle of the market, for a functioning Australian town with a pub, a general store, an airstrip, a community hall, and the Royal Flying Doctor Service. For what a parking space costs in some Sydney suburbs, you can own a house in a town that has been sustaining itself through boom and bust since the 1930s without requiring anyone's permission to do so. The history of Andamuka is the history of people arriving from everywhere and staying because the alternative was going back. Post-war migrants from Hungary, Yugoslavia, Italy, and Greece arrived in the 1950s on barely discernible outback tracks. Some came on foot. The first community newsletter in 1978 was published in 3 languages. The town that grew out of that experience has a specific character: self-reliant, adaptable, and deeply skeptical of anyone who has not proven themselves willing to dig. The observatory nearby draws astronomers to what is genuinely one of the darkest skies in South Australia. The opal fields still produce. Andamuka has no council to send you a rates notice, no police station to enforce regulations, and no rubbish truck on a schedule. It has 260 people, a $73,000 median property price, and an opal field that has been producing since 1930. That is either everything you want or everything you want to avoid, and the town has never particularly cared which. The next town does not just remove the bills, it hands you money to move there. Number 1. Quilpie, Queensland. This outback town will give you $20,000 to build a house and move in, and on some blocks the grant covers the entire cost of the land. Quilpie sits approximately 1,000 kilometers west of Brisbane in outback Queensland, a stretch of country so flat and so far from anything that the drive itself functions as a commitment test. The population is around 800 people. The town has a supermarket, a hospital, a medical center, a pharmacy, 2 schools, an early learning center, a community gym, sporting ovals, tennis courts, free swimming pools, and weekly flights to Brisbane. It is, by any honest measure, a functioning town. It simply has more space than it has people, and the council has decided to do something about that. The Quilpie Shire Council launched its homeowner grant scheme in 2021. Build a new home in the Shire, live in it for 6 months, and the council will give you $20,000. The grant started at $12,500, attracted over 600 inquiries in its first month from across Australia, the United States, India, and Ireland, and was subsequently raised to $20,000. Land blocks are available from $25,000. On those blocks, the $20,000 grant does not reduce the cost of the land, it eliminates it. The council chief executive said people pre-approved for million-dollar loans in Brisbane were laughed at when they asked for $400,000 in Quilpie, because the banks do not understand outback property markets. The council is not confused about this. It has committed over $11.8 million of its own funds toward additional housing since 2022 because it has decided that growth is worth paying for, and waiting for the banks to catch up is not a strategy. The town is currently the third safest postcode in Queensland. People do not lock their cars. One family who had never visited bought a block of land because the deal was too good to pass up. Their instinct was correct. Summer temperatures reach 50 degrees. The distance from Brisbane is real. The council has a hospital, a pharmacy, and infrastructure it is actively expanding, and $20,000 is available to anyone willing to build and stay. The landscape around Quilpie is channel country, the vast river system that drains western Queensland, sustaining cattle stations across millions of hectares. The opal fields at Yoa and Eromanga nearby produce the distinctive boulder opals found nowhere else. The night sky is unobstructed in every direction. The silence is not the absence of something. It is the presence of everything that cities have spent a century building over. Most Australians have never heard of Quilpie. The ones who have mostly picture it as a long drive to nowhere. What it actually is a functioning outback town with full services, a government that will hand you $20,000 on completion of your house, land from $25,000, and a cost of living that, once your housing is settled, is almost entirely within your own control. The government is not supposed to pay you to live somewhere. That is not how it works. Except in Quilpie, where it is exactly how it works, and has been since 2021, and the coast has not noticed yet. Or you can keep paying $29,000 a year in mortgage, rates, water, and energy bills just to have somewhere to sleep in a suburb where the council sends you a letter every time you trim a hedge without written permission. Entirely your call. The average Australian spends $29,000 a year just to have somewhere to sleep. Every town in this video makes that number smaller, and one of them hands you $20,000 the moment you move in. Subscribe and we will keep finding them.